All right, welcome back to Find the Extraordinary. I'm here today with my wonderful, fabulous, extraordinary friend Rosie, and I'm just super
Hello.
excited to have you on. I think we have a lot of stuff that we've talked about that we wanted to go over, and yay, let's do it.
We started already. Thank you very much for having me. Thank
Sure,
you.
of course. But you are my second guest. The first one was Payam, and you know Payam as well because
Oh
all
yeah.
of us met in Thailand at camp, and we talked a lot about that last time with Payam. And people must be thinking that must have been some kind of extraordinary camp, and it really was. Um, but we've kept in touch since then, and mostly we send each other hilarious memes about men. But outside of that,
Yeah, I was thinking earlier, I was like, I'm gonna say to Amanda, oh, long time no see, but actually, it doesn't feel like that at all because we are constantly, in touch somehow, either texting or sending stupid reels or whatever, we're still in touch, very much in touch,
yeah,
which
it's
is
been
amazing.
really great. Well, because I don't know, I think there's certain people, and you definitely know this as a traveler. There's certain people who you just connect with, and when you do, you just love those people. It's kind of you mentioned earlier before we started recording that it's kind of like the family that you create, and it very much is, I think.
Yeah, the family that you choose yourself as a grown-up, and we were also saying it's not, as a traveler, you meet a lot of people, and you create different kind of connections, and you go, deeper with some, and then you, as I said, in a post I publish, is like, some people just cross your path for a minute, and some other can stay forever. You decide to keep them in your life for a very, very, very long time. So yeah, and I think from that camp, a lot of meaningful connection. We are keeping them and try to foster them. Yeah. So yeah, I'm glad that we are talking now as well.
Yeah, me too. Me too. One of the things we've talked about ourselves is that as women, we tend to, like a lot of women, just tend to be so competitive with each other. And we've kind of talked about how that's just kind of bullshit. And you get to a point in your life when you realize that or maybe I think both of us have probably always kind of been this way, where we don't feel the need to be competitive with other women. But
No,
beyond
no,
that,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Please go
I think
ahead.
I think beyond that, realizing that when we lift each other up, it's really powerful and meaningful, and that's really been one of the biggest joys, I think, for me, is being able to encourage other women, have other women encourage me, and kind of grow those relationships.
Absolutely. And yeah, we were talking about that because you asked me about, yeah, well, a moment in my life when, I recently got separated from like my former partner of 11 years. And I was in this moment, and I came back, home to Italy after living abroad for a very, very long time. And I was in a kind of a dark place. And I was watching this interview. And this interview was between this ex, and the current girlfriend, and they were like just having a lovely conversation. And I was telling you, I really love this narrative, that women don't have to be enemies. I've never been, and I told you, I've never been competitive with women in my life like ever. I don't find a reason to. And also, I think when you get so competitive, it's more like, look at yourself in the mirror, because there must be some kind of insecurities, there for you to put yourself in a situation of, like comparing yourself to other people, or yeah, I mean, in a bad way. We naturally, we do, we do, it happens, but it depends on the way you do that. And so they were having this really nice and constructive conversation, and I just like that so much, and I hope that we as women, we carry on with this kind of conversation, and support each other, because I said, I mean, we run the world when we are together. We are powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You also said something that cracked me up though when we were talking about that. Basically, it goes both ways, and that doesn't mean we have to let ourselves get trampled on emotionally or whatever by other women. But the way you put that really made me laugh. You remember what you said?
Your new mantra, you mean?
No, no, no.
You
That was the well, yeah, one of them. The if you're gonna
I
be
oh, you wanna yeah, I mean, yeah, I was saying, yeah, of course. I mean, I've never been competitive. Then I said, of course, if you are a bitch to me, I'm gonna bitch back. But of course, is rarely the case. I would say is rarely the case. Yeah,
you said
I
it in
mean,
such an Italian way. You said if you're gonna be beaching me, I'm gonna be beaching you back.
that's
It just made
true.
me laugh so much. But yeah, so both of us are travelers, and both of us have really been kind of all over the world. You tend to go toward the warm places, even though you ended up in Ireland recently. What were you doing in
I
Ireland?
did in Ireland.
Yeah, you did some cool stuff.
I did. I don't know, because I came back from Thailand, which is this amazing warm place. I met so many people there, and I came back, and it was. I have to say, it was pretty hard coming back, to reality because Thailand was like a camp in particular was like an amazing bubble, right? And so you realize it's like an island, and you feel. For me, it was like I felt myself again. I found again my feminine side. I got to connect with so many people and so on, and then you come back, and it's like it feel it's another kind of loneliness somehow, because you miss the whole thing. And I spent my summer here at my parents' place, and I had to figure out some, paperwork, some kind of stuff, which was fun. And then suddenly, I don't know, I just felt like Ireland was calling me, and I don't know, suddenly, and I have no clue. And I was like, okay, then I have a little bit of time. I don't know, I have the possibility to go there. Why not? So I got in touch with with a B&B, and I went there, and I helped with some admin stuff there. So I worked for 3-4 weeks, and I had the possibility to explore Dingle, which is an amazing peninsula and the
Mhm.
surroundings, and it's stunning. It's like breathtaking. And let me tell you, because you think of Ireland, and you're like rainy and cloudy, and so I think, it was sunny the whole time. So I don't know. I must have, it's like Marfilo's the opposite, it's like the cloud is not following me. I don't know. I don't know what happened, but it was amazing. And I was thinking about that the other day. And then, I moved to northern, and like it wasn't Dublin. It was like 1 hour from Dublin. It's called Tullamore. And I went and I lived in a castle for another 3-4 weeks for an interior design project. I was like that to renovate part of the castle, which, I mean, I got to live in a castle, and I was
What
like,
a dream! Like that is the coolest thing.
it was very cool, but it was also very scary the first week, because it was like, you know in dark, and these ghost stories, and oh, the castle is haunted. It was like, and I was, what were you thinking? Sometimes I have these ideas. I don't know, but it was amazing. And the forest, the castle forest, I am a walker. I love go for hiking and walking, and it was beautiful, beautiful. And then I went a couple of days to Dublin, and I enjoyed the city, and I probably be moving there in January. So Ireland was really calling me. Yeah, and I was thinking, earlier, and I was thinking Ireland was calling me. And let me tell you, I met exactly the people I needed to meet in this moment of my life,
Mhm.
like I met exactly, and I had exactly the conversations I needed to have in this past 2 months. So I think it was a sign.
Yeah, it really is. I found that it's like that too, where you just kind of have this knowing that this is where you're going to go next. And I don't know how to explain that. I don't know that. maybe it's just being really tuned into your own intuition. But I've had a lot of the same experiences where you just kind of feel, like you said, like something's calling you, and there's just something about a place that you feel drawn there. And it's even finding the place to live. Like for example, how did you find the places you were going to be living? Was it just intuitive, or did you have like?
I think it's like as many things in my life, I kind of jump. But my therapist says, you have this crazy side of you, but it's never fully crazy. It's like irrational. I don't know how to explain it in English, but it's like a rational kind of crazy. So you jump into this so diverse situations. If I think about that, we were in Thailand 6 months ago, and then I moved back to Italy and then to Ireland, and who knows next year. But it's never like I always have a roof on my head, and people I can rely on, and I don't know, I just contacted people, and and they contacted me and they replied, and we just organized the whole stuff. I don't know, life happens sometimes. I don't know how.
Yeah, I totally get that. And it is, just kind of an intuitiveness, but it's also a lack of fear. I think so many people are concerned, what if I get there and where am I going to go? And where am I going to sleep? And how am I going to do this? And I don't know anybody. How am I going to make it work? Or even money fears is another thing that people fear. But I really do think that fear and the part where somehow people like us, and there's a lot of us out there, overcome that fear and just are willing to dive in and are okay with not knowing what's going to happen next because we know we'll get through it.
Yeah, and so I would say, more rather than a lack of fear, because I mean,
It's
the
there.
is there. I think it's like a lot of hope and a lot of faith in, like, in ourselves. As you say, we know that we're gonna find a way somehow, and faith in other people, because I think I am pretty optimistic, especially when I'm traveling. I get more optimistic. Like I become, I don't know, when I'm traveling, I become like the stronger and the more positive and the more open version of myself. you know
Yeah.
and when you come back, you start believing other things. You start believing, like, why would you do that? And I always remember my late grandfather. He came from the poverty. Like, he was very, very, very poor when he was a kid. And then little by little he was able to build, like, I would say, comfortable life,
Mhm.
and a successful job. He used to be an antiques dealer, and he would travel all around the world, big family back home. He was the mayor of my small town for 20 years back then, when you could, be re-elected many more times. It was like, I would say, he was a successful person. And I do remember when I was a kid, I spent a lot of time with him, and there were like people, and for his times, he was a little bit of a vanguardist. He had new ideas, and he would fight for them. And I do remember people coming home and say, but nephew was his name, nephew, why do you want to do that? And he would always answer, why not? Why
Mhm.
not?
Yeah.
If you don't have the courage of trying new things, maybe you fail. Oh, good. We all screw up sometimes.
Mhm.
We all make mistakes. But I have this voice. I don't know. I think it's going to be my next tattoo. Why not? We like question mark, which will drive Payam crazy, you know?
I am,
Why
I
not?
understand.
My next.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I really think there are people who say, why not? And there are people who say, no way. I mean, well, they're the whys and the why nots, really. And I have come across so many people who say, why would you want to do that? Or why, it, rather than, I think for both of us, rather than owning a house, having a car, having stability, waking up every day, knowing what's going to happen, we choose something so different. And to a lot of people, that's crazy because they're not comfortable with that. But I think they're like for us, and I speak for myself, and I think for you too, we're more comfortable with that. Like the idea of being out and exploring the world and being fully ourselves and fully alive, to not do that is a compromise. Like for me to stay in one place and just, kind of sink into mediocrity. And I don't mean to say that other people's lives are mediocre. I just mean that for me, when I'm doing that, I feel mediocre. I feel like I'm not living to my full potential. Um,
Mm.
and I love being out there and just really exploring who I am, and to have so many mirrors of other people around me from different cultures, different languages, different ideas about the world. Everybody's our mirror, and we see ourselves in those people. And when you come back home, I feel like I'm not seen. I mean, I've been back home now for a couple of months, and I love my people, but I can't have those big discussions, and I don't feel like I'm that big energy person that I am when I'm out exploring the world. Do you kind of go through that too?
Oh, I relate 100%. As I was telling you earlier, when I travel, when I am out and about, there somewhere, I am I feel like I'm at my full potential. I am not another person completely, but I am my best version.
Yeah.
Also, I think, it's not like I for me, I would like to have some stability in the sense that I don't now I feel like I've been, traveling around and living around Europe and now, the world for in the last 20 years. So I would like to like not settle in the like I think in the traditional way. What I think is like, let's make the most of every place you go. So, I was in Thailand and I was there first as a guest. And then I just connected with the manager and she was like, why don't you stay a little bit longer and help manage the place? And I was like, why not? You
Mm.
know?
Yeah.
And now I went to Ireland and I had this possibility to explore the surroundings and really enjoy nature, and people and connect. And when I'm gonna go back, is Dublin the place I really wanna live? Maybe not. I will try to make the most of it. And then when I feel like this place doesn't serve me anymore, maybe I'll decide to leave, probably. So, but I 100% agree with you. And also, I think when you come back you have the feeling somehow, and I'm not talking about everyone, and every situation. For me, home is really positive for a certain period of time because it's like it's familiar, it's your people, it's the place you grew up. So it but the feeling sometimes is like you outgrew the place,
Hmm.
you outgrew
Yeah.
the conversations that you can have. Yeah, I think this is something we feel, and we need to listen to it. um, but it can be different for anyone, of course.
I think it is like that. And I honestly think after meeting so many people on both sides of all that, that some of us are just born that way. Some of us are just born almost nomadic or wanderers, or we want to experience new things and to be stimulated in that way. And it's always been like that. If you look at nomadic people throughout history and prehistory, I mean, there are always groups of people who are more comfortable if they're exploring. And there's always groups of people who want to hunker down and create their lives in a very insular way. And there's nothing wrong with either one. For me, I feel like I'm shoved in a box that it's far too small for me when I have to be in one place for too long. And it's a difficult thing. My brother, who is, he's in finance and econ, and worked for the same bank. He's getting ready to retire, but his entire career, college and on, has been through this one bank. And he did everything he's supposed to do. He bought the investment house, and then a few years later, they got married. He sold the house. They had a boy, and then they had a girl, and then they bought their MBAs one by one, and they got their matching BMWs one by one, and and they've had their house paid off for 100 million years now, and and they're getting ready to retire, and they'll have like all these assets and freedom to do what they want, and it's exactly the
Mhm.
way you're supposed to do it. I think I would have died a slow death if I'd have done that. I would love to have the assets. I would love to have, the stability behind me of, everything's
Mm.
paid off and I don't have to worry about where money comes from. But outside of
Mm.
that, my gosh, the experiences that I've had in my life, I feel like that's what I'm here for. I don't feel like I was ever meant to have, I don't want to say small because lots of people have very big lives that are not like mine. But for me, it would be a small life of not pushing those limits all the time.
Mm. Can I ask you, because you, if I remember correctly, you were married and had kids, so you had this part of the traditional life, you had the job. So how did you live that dimension, that part of your life, because I guess you were staying in the same place at least for a while, or how did you feel back then?
I wasn't ever really in one place. We did move when I was married. We moved a couple different
Okay.
times with my husband's career, but also later in the marriage, I started volunteering. I started an organization in Ghana, and for me, that was a very me thing to do. Um, I had a I had a business that I was importing things from China and India, and in a way, that really solved the need to communicate outside of my own sphere. And so I was
Mm.
doing that and talking to people from China and India all the time, and that was really kind of cool. And then I ended up going to China, but that business, which was importing high-end kitchen and bath stuff, failed when the economy crashed. And so in
Mm. Mm.
2009, we lost everything that we'd invested in everything. And we ended up having to short sell our house. We lost our vehicles. We lost everything because the economy crashed. And at that time for me, I defined myself by my stuff. What car do I drive and how cool is my house? And, how great is my furniture? And, all the things that people start to define themselves by. And I don't want to do that again. So for me, that's when I started volunteering in Ghana, and then I ended up starting my own organization. And I went there several times a year. So for the last several years of my marriage, that's what I was doing. And I did get out and explore and fulfill that part of me. And then
Yes.
that part never went away. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know that for me personally that I know how to be in one place forever. Um, and I wish I was content with that. And I think this phase of my life, I need to work on being more content with that. And maybe for me, that does mean staying someplace longer. Um, but at the same time, I see the value in connecting all over the world for me.
Mm-mm. Yes, I think what we want, maybe we can stay in a place even for a couple of years. I don't
Yeah.
know, maybe shorter, maybe longer. But it's like it's the possibility of.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was thinking about the new mantra.
Yes.
Maybe we can
Which is
we
which
can
is
tell
what?
later. Okay, I would think I have two legs, one big brain. I
Uh-huh.
have some money maybe, and I can just pack my stuff whenever I want and
And
fuck
fuck
off.
off.
I think this is what keeps us going, like having this thought, that we can do that. We have the freedom to do that. This not even the freedom, but the warmth. We can talk about that. The people, conversations, connection. This was missing when I was
Mhm.
down. Money comes back. We can find a
Yeah.
good job. And we can find a partner if we want to. That's not the point. The point is, don't get lost in the process.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that is the thing. uh, Whether it's chasing money or chasing a relationship or stability or whatever it is, I see so many people, especially, my age, I'm 52 now, and, they're their children have grown up, their partners are maybe in their lives and maybe not, and they're at this crossroads where they don't remember who they were before they were mom and wife or whatever their role is, or employee, whatever it is. They're so empty, and they want to fill it. And I think my whole life I've pursued that thing that fills it, at the expense of financial stability sometimes, at
Mm-mm.
the expense of relationships, at the expense, like you're right. We have no problem finding people to be in a relationship with if we want that. But finding somebody who really gets us and sees us for who we are and who is willing to explore the world like we do is really hard. And that's the compromise. And that's the other thing, is we lose ourselves in that sometimes too, where we feel like we have to make ourselves, I don't want to say smaller, we just have to change who we are to adapt to somebody else. And sometimes we don't want to, like, we like this version of us that we are. Do you see it that
I
way?
would I would say it must be worth it. Because at least for me now, I've seen and I know so many things, and I experienced and witnessed, it's so diverse range of emotions and, as I said, a connection and stuff, if I because I'm not excluding the possibility of settling one day,
Hmm.
but unfortunately for me and for him, I think it must be extraordinary. In my ordinary life,
Yeah.
I need to feel like there's something extraordinary.
But I think one of the important things in that is recognizing the opportunity. It doesn't matter if you believe in God or the universe or nature, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
The whole concept that there's something guiding you toward purpose, or or fulfillment or whatever, is really important to a lot of people, including myself. And there's so many times when things go so wrong, and you can choose to sink into that and to be depressed about it, and to, just go, oh, my life is over. What am I going to do? Or you can say, this is a huge opportunity, and I can change my life right now at this moment and do these things that I've wanted to do, or just become something different than what I've been. And those prompts, I think you keep getting them throughout your life until you listen to them. And some of us get a
Absolutely.
whole lot of them.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Because in this kind of moments, in these moments where you are in deep pain, there may be a tendency to isolate from the world, to get cold and withdraw into yourself.
So we both ended up in the middle of cornfields in central Thailand.
Yep, in the
Yeah,
middle of nowhere,
nowhere.
which is precisely why I chose that again, that place, because I went to the different websites, with the yoga retreats, because this is what I want. I wanted to get in shape again. I wanted to feel good, So I was like, okay, let me find a yoga. I was really enjoying Pilates here. So let me find something I can do. I sent some emails to different places, even in Koh Samui, in other parts of Thailand. But that was the place that it would call me. It was calling me, and once again, I was right. I was just right.
Yeah, I
So
had a similar
yeah.
feeling with that place, and it was just absolutely random that I even was looking for something like that. And I ended up on, what's the site that we all book a retreat, bookretreats.com, something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I
Yeah.
wanted to do some kind of an immersive retreat. I had no idea what, and I thought, oh, I kind of like yoga, and then I thought, well, I've never learned Muay Thai, and so I thought, oh, I'll do it. And it was just such a spontaneous, this feels like the right thing to do. I think I landed on it, and I read it, and I looked at the website, and I booked it. So, and we all
Oh,
ended up there in kind of similar. We were all in the same mindset when we got there. I mean, we all get there at different times, but I think that's why we all bonded so much. We're trying to live these lives that are authentic to who we are, and we're trying to figure out how to do it. And whether that means figuring out the money piece, which is a big one for a lot of us, or figuring out how do I manage my regular life with this other stuff that's so important to me. That's been the deal for a lot of us, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what I realized, for example, when I came back from camp after like 4 or 5 months, and there were like people staying there for 2 months, 3 months, so you really get the chance to bond, because the kind of camp we were training together, eating together, playing board games together. We remember, you had the possibility to be by yourself if you wanted to, because you could go for a walk. You had your private room, so it was, for me, it was also the right balance. And of course, managing the place, it was a different kind of experience afterwards, which I loved very much. So very much. But I realized I came back, and Iris, do you remember Iris? Well, there,
Mhm.
there was this guest, and we'd been together for 3 4 months. I came back from camp, and we bonded. We're still in touch. We had very, very, very good conversation. And I realized I didn't know what job Iris did.
Yes, that's the case for so many of us. And even I wrote about that as well, because in our real lives and in at home, like the first question everybody says when you meet somebody, oh, what do you do? Meaning, what do you do for a living? And we did not care what everybody did. It just didn't, it did not matter. We talked about so many other things, but not that.
We didn't care about so many stuff, like no makeup. Like, if I look back at my pictures there, I look like a lion most of the time. Training clothes. And the thing, we would go training, and then immediately after there was like breakfast time, or lunch, dinner time. So we
Mhm.
didn't even have the chance, like, I didn't, at some point I was like, nobody's having a shower, so we were all sweaty from
You don't
training,
think about
like,
that.
no, untidy hair, no makeup, random clothes, whatever, we were like, we didn't give nothing about
The
that.
nothing.
Like, it wasn't important at all.
Yeah.
Who cares? Who
Hmm.
cares? We were there for the stories. We were there for, like, for witnessing resilience and courage, and strength, and also struggle. It wasn't, there wasn't a moment where we would judge each other.
Yeah.
That was the kind, but that, also I have to say, especially people saying that, I think understanding the importance of having, like, feeling like in a safe place. I think we contributed all together to create this kind of community, this
Mhm.
atmosphere where new people would feel like welcome, and just part of the bigger picture there, because
Mhm.
they would arrive, and there was like this group of people we were part of people being there for 2, 3, 4 months. But
Mhm.
we never, we always welcome other people, because how it feels like traveling to the other part of the world and feeling, far away from your family and friends, and you may end up feeling lonely sometimes. So that was, I think, that was like a sort of, how do you say, silent agreement, at camp,
Mhm.
and everybody would contribute to it. And people still nowadays, they contact me, and they have very, very nice memories, souvenir, like memories of the place, and
Mhm.
people were the major piece of it.
Yeah,
So yeah.
exactly. From there, where did I go? I think I went to Italy right after. Yeah, I did. I went to Italy immediately afterward, and I carried that same like just outgoingness and talking to everybody. Sometimes they did not speak my language, but that's okay. They seem to like me just fine. But that same openness and that same authenticity. Yeah, yeah, you just do this in Italy and you're good. But that same
You do that,
authenticity.
and you can do a bunch of stuff. You can eat,
Yeah,
you can try to understand more,
it's all
you know
bliss.
yeah.
I got pretty good at that, but I also was around really nice people there too. And then but I did find myself in another group situation when uh, after my initial month in Italy, I went on a trek in the Dolomites, and it was not like camp. It was very different because there were especially women who were competitive against each other in ways that I'm not used to anymore and that I don't like. And it was really difficult to adapt to the real world, and that kind of is the real world in many places where it's not always this wonderful, friendly, supportive environment. And I found that I don't want to be part of that. I don't like it, and I just withdrew completely from the ones who were doing that. And I did end up making connections with a couple of the girls there, but it was very, I should say women. It was a real wake up call to be around people who weren't friendly and supportive and just loving, like just coming from this beautiful place of authenticity that we had at camp, and that I've had so many places since then. And it was, thankfully, that was temporary, but it really put a big cloud over. I can honestly say I did not enjoy that experience very well, even though I thought I would. And then
I remember, by the way, you telling me that because it was such a strong feeling, and I totally understood that because you like you go from this kind of bubble where we were like protected and we would protect each other, and
Mhm,
take care of each other and be present all the time, and then you go slowly transitioning, but you're still that person somehow. You want to carry, as you said, this that same feeling, and also approach into other experiences,
mhm,
but it's not obvious, it's not automatic that you find the same kind of people, the same kind of connections that
mhm.
you found back there.
I don't want to be that person who isn't open and authentic and coming from a loving place all the time. So I have found myself isolating a whole lot more than I did for 2.5 years. And I really, it bothers me a lot. And so there's a big part of me that I just want to get back out there. And just want to I want to surround myself again with those relationships and those people. A relative of mine who I love very much, we were at lunch and she said, "Do you think that the relationships that you form traveling, that the part where they're all so short term, that they're so, you're only with them for a little snippet of time and those become who you surround yourself with, do you think there's something about not wanting to form long-term relationships that affects you?" And I've thought about that question quite a bit. And my response at the time was, well, yeah, because I'm never around anybody long enough for them to disappoint me. And I think, that was my knee-jerk reaction, but I think that's kind of true in a way. And so that's something I definitely need to work on, is carrying out relationships even when they're not um, completely, wonderful and fulfilling. But I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I totally get what your friend means because I asked the question myself,
Hmm.
but actually for me, when I came back from Thailand, I struggled so much because of this. I was like, I hate the temporariness side of traveling. I hate that I got to know not so many. Okay, I got to know many people, but we were saying we click in a deeper way with
Hmm.
some of them, in a more meaningful way. There is like a different kind of energy, with some people in particular, and then you just you have your life, and this person has, or those people have their life. So I'm back to Italy, you're back to the USA or London,
Hmm.
or wherever, and I'm like, for a moment, I was very, very sad about that. I was like, I want to keep this person in my life, like forever. I don't want to be this kind of traveling connection that, oh yeah, we knew it wouldn't last. So, it's amazing because it's just the magic of the moment, the short term relationship. And I'm like, no, I'm not interested in that. It's like, I want to have long-term relationships with people, because I used to be like that, having traveled and I lived all over Europe, and I used to be that kind of person, and I've changed now, and I'm glad I've changed this way, and I'm still trying, okay, because it's not easy. But it used to be like, I'm not gonna get too attached to that person, because anyway in 6 months I'm gonna leave, so what's the point,
Mhm.
the point is the moments, the memories, the love, that,
Yeah.
and even though then you are long distance, you can keep in touch, for example, you, Payam,
Mhm.
many other people, that I met, another good friend from Australia. We don't talk all the time. It's meaningful when we do. We just need to organize with time zone and find a way, but we always do. So if you want it, you can do it. And of course, it's a different kind of relationship. And maybe if I go to Australia and I go live with this person for 2 months, I'm gonna kill him, or he's gonna kill me, because maybe, you know
Yeah.
maybe it doesn't work. But this is also the beauty. Relationships are not easy. It's a choice. Love, in all her forms, love is a choice, and it's
Yeah.
not, it's like, it's with a partner, but it's also with a friend, you know I'm so grateful for the friendships I have now. But I don't like to say I'm lucky. I can say I'm fortunate, but I built those relationships. I worked my ass off, and
Mhm.
was it always easy? No. With my best friend, we had the most amazing fights. Trust me, and it wasn't always easy, but we went, there was like intentionality. That's the thing.
Mhm.
It was like, I want you to be in my life, and I want to be in your life, and we're gonna make it work, and we can also be very different people, because we met all kinds of people,
Yeah.
and that's also the beauty of it, and you can learn from each other. So, okay, maybe we have to learn to, as you say, to just keep people in our life and work on it, which I'm trying. And I think the reward it's so precious, that I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to
Yeah.
do the work.
Yeah. I think somebody had said something years ago that I still think about, and they said basically that we don't when we love people, whether it's on a friendship level or a relationship level or whatever, it's not so much that we love them, it's how we feel when we're with them. We love who we are when we're with those people. And I really do think that that's kind of the travel life, is that you meet so many people and you're so authentic. And part of it is because the situation is such that you get to be completely open. And if they reject you, it's temporary. Like you get to go home, or you get to, as you say, you get to fuck off. And so but I don't think it start that way. But I do think that there are so many connections we make when we're traveling, where we are on both sides completely authentic people, and you just don't have that necessarily when you're at home. And so these relationships that we do form, our relationship and so many other people that we've connected with, both from Thailand and from other places, those are really meaningful relationships, because those are people who really see us for who we are, because we show them who we are. And it just doesn't feel the same to me when I'm
I
back
know.
home and trying to, you just can't have, like you said, the conversations. You don't have as much in common to talk about, and you don't have, that um there's the expectation when you're home of what people are supposed to be like. And I run into that a lot, and it really it kind of cramps who you are allowed to be, and it cramps who I feel like when I'm with some people.
Yeah, because people tend to label you or put you in a box that they built for you. It's
Yeah.
like, you are giving me a role that you have in your mind, but I'm not the person, or I'm not the person anymore. oh, I've never been that person. So, and then if you stay, I think I find if you stay a long time in that place, you tend to accommodate that vision.
You
You,
become
te-
it.
you yeah, you become that person that they expect you to be, but you feel like, I mean, what's happening, and so I think that's when the need to live again, it becomes stronger and louder somehow. It's like, I don't want to conform to the vision, to this kind of thing. I'm not. And also, I think with age, although we are very, very, very young,
Yeah.
okay, but,
Clearly.
clearly, I also, you also got to the point where I am not responsible for what you're thinking about me. It's like, it's now my responsibility to explain myself to you. I
Yeah.
can, I can show you, and I never close doors, and I am for second chances. I tend to give the benefit of the doubt, generally speaking. So, let's keep the conversation open, and I'm willing to listen to you and maybe explain to you a couple of things, but I don't have, I don't have to prove you anything.
Hmm.
Either you get me
Or you don't.
or you don't.
Hmm. Yeah, I think
And
that's so true. That validation, that outside validation is is something that we learn to not have. And I think as travelers, we really don't have that, because especially solo travelers, because it is just us. And we learn to really rely on ourselves for our own self-worth and our own value, instead of looking to everybody else to tell us who we are, and whether we're valuable or not. We already know that we are. That sounds really cocky, but we're kind of awesome. So
if it, at least it feels that way whilst we're traveling, if you feel like you have superpowers, even those parts of yourself you had forgotten, somehow they just, oh, here
mhm.
you are. Oh, nice to meet you again. Like, yeah, that's what I remembered. It
Yeah,
was there somewhere, and it's like resurfacing now in the most amazing ways.
yeah,
That's what Thailand and camp in particular did to me. I got to find my feminine side again. I got to find myself, again, feeling like, I was able to build these relationships, and just, and also feel this kind of peace of mind again. I'm gonna try then to bring the same approach, that I have whilst traveling in the next place I'm gonna be. I'm gonna try to be myself there and see what happens. And I think also this is also why I'm picking Ireland, because people there are so welcoming and
yeah,
caring, and it's a country where music plays an important part. So people who play music and dance, and it's really like it's a vital. It's you can feel that people approach life differently. I can't explain, but this is something, I'm attracted to. So I'm gonna explore that and see what happens.
yeah. I spent a couple of months in Dingle too, and it's not just going in a pub and hearing the music. It's the fact that the music is part of the hills. It's just part of everything, and you feel that rhythm, and you feel the ancient tunes, even like just going for walks out there. It's just really amazing. So I'm glad that you're there. Well, we need to wrap up a little bit, but before we go, I have to ask you the question. Two questions. First one is, what do you think people see when they look at you?
Oh, that's interesting. uh when they look at me, okay, I've been told it used to be, oh my gosh, she's kind of a bitch.
A beach or a bitch?
Both.
Yeah.
No, but I worked on that. My sister used to say, Rosie, change your face, because like I'm so, you know I have subtitles, even if I don't speak. I'm you can read me
You're
somehow, I
Italian.
don't know.
You're
I don't
Italian.
know,
It
you know,
just comes with the territory.
particularly, you know, but my sister, she was like, fish, you know, like, and no, I worked on that. I think now, I think they feel like kind of like positive, smiling, welcoming person. And also, I've been told, you know, uh, then when they get to know me a little bit more, they're like, oh my god, you know, like you're this strong, independent, fierce woman, you know. And I'm like, yeah, well, yeah, sure, you know, it's not untrue. That's also, you know, the other side of it.
Well, that goes into the
Yeah.
next question then. The final question is what do you think they're missing?
I mean, I, as I said, you know, we are these independent women, right? We can take care of ourselves, you know. But you know, I am a person who struggles and has struggled her entire life with very deep mental health issues. You know, it's sometimes it's very hard. You know, it's like it's a daily it's a daily job. You have to work on yourself. You have to show up for yourself every day. And you know what it takes? It takes intentionality, it takes commitment, it takes self-discipline, it takes faith, you know. And then I was thinking the other day, you know what it takes? It takes a village. It takes a village. It takes like a support network around you. It takes, you know, you can't do that by yourself. You know, the human being, it's a social animal, and it should be like that. We need connections, we need warmth, we need, you know, people we can rely on. We also need the hard conversations, the conversation that we don't want to have, you know. And it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of healing, and it hasn't been easy. It still isn't sometimes, but you know, with the right people, it's good to you know, you're willing to do that because it's worth it. It's like a beautiful work in progress.
Yeah. Well,
Mm-mm.
thank you. And thank you for coming on today. I really appreciate it. You are definitely
My
one of my
pleasure.
most extraordinary people that I've met, and not necessarily because you've done amazing things, but just because you're so beautiful from the inside out. So thank you so much.
Oh, that's mutual, of course. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, maybe let's keep the conversation, you know, going, and we will meet. I'm sure you're gonna visit me in Ireland, and or you know, we're gonna meet
Somewhere.
again, I'm sure.
Definitely
Let's
so.
make it work.
Let's do it.
Let's make it happen.
All right. Thank you for joining me.